Good evening, you're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, regeneration in Hull with improvements to Beverley Road. Our man Dave Nunn spent a night sleeping rough as part of the Sleep Easy event, raising awareness of homelessness. And I'll be talking to Dave here in the studio about his experiences that night. Welcome to Estuary TV News. I'm Hugh Riches. First of all, it's over to James Dunn for the news headlines.
Hello, in today's news, new sports facilities for young people in rural areas and awards for Hull's Scale Lane Bridge. But first, police have launched a murder inquiry after the death of a woman at Hull's Ibis Hotel on Sunday. Officers attended at 1 p.m. yesterday and arrested a 51-year-old man from the York area who remains in custody. The deceased is believed to be a local woman in her 50s but has not yet been formally identified. Young women in rural areas could soon enjoy new sports facilities as the council looks to invest in North Lincolnshire's villages. They've opened a consultation on a new skate park in Barton and Winterton and a multi-use games area in Gunnis and Burringham. Councillor Rob Waltham, Cabinet Member for People, said young people in rural areas deserve sports facilities just as much as those in built-up parts of North Lincolnshire.
We've got skate parks right across North Lincolnshire in rural areas because, in particular, the one that we funded most recently is one in Burton upon Stather, and there's another one in Goxhill. So, it's a massive investment by the council, but it's for those children in rural areas who wouldn't necessarily get those services under normal funding arrangements.
Two people held by police over a sudden death in Hull's Saltash Lane have been released on bail. Police continue to investigate the death of James Anderson, 38, from Manchester, who died suddenly in a residential property on Saturday night. A 55-year-old man and a 49-year-old woman were arrested in connection with the incident, but have been released on bail until early March. Hull's Scale Lane Bridge has got top marks from the city's Civic Society, which has given it a special award. They picked up the accolade from the Lord Mayor and Admiral of the Humber, Mary Glue.
I think it brings, as all our bridges do, connectivity and ease of access for our visitors and for our residents to the Old Town. So it opens up the Old Town, makes good use of our free car parking over the other side, and gives you the ability to see all our award-winning museums and enjoy the high street and everything the Old Town has to offer.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today, but I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
One of Hull's most historic areas, Beverley Road, is now a step closer to redevelopment. Hull City Council have applied to the Heritage Lottery Fund. The work would see the former Hull Savings Bank and the Stepney Station building among those getting a facelift. Dan Kemp reports.
With Hull City of Culture Year approaching, the city is getting itself ready for the millions of visitors expected during 2017. Amongst the plans for the improvement of the city before, during and after the Culture Year are the widening of Castle Street, the building of a new 6,000-seater events centre and the redesigning of Queen Victoria Square. And hopefully Beverley Road can soon be added to the list.
The council got a round one pass from the Heritage Lottery Fund in November 2013, which means that basically you then go to round two and you have to put a much more detailed scheme together. So we're in the middle of putting those detailed plans together. We'll be submitting the stage 2 application to the Heritage Lottery Fund in about a month. So we're at the moment, we're just collecting as many ideas, as much feedback as we can, trying to make sure that the scheme is really relevant to local people and that people support the ideas that we're putting forward. It's public money, we really need to make sure that it really works for the community and for the heritage.
If the project is approved by the Heritage Fund, the council has plans in place to make sure the local community not only benefit from the aesthetics and revenue generated by the upgrades, but also from getting hands-on with the work.
It's also to ensure that local people have the confidence and the skills to look after the heritage. We're hoping to fund training days and skills days, hoping to work with local apprentices on doing some of the work, so make sure some of those conservation skills kind of are kept alive in the city.
Along Beverley Road lies an iconic piece of the city's heritage. The National Picture Theatre has laid derelict since a bomb fell on it in 1941. and the National Civilian World War II Memorial Trust are also aiming to access heritage lottery funding for its preservation.
So we are wanting to stabilise its condition, prevent it from deteriorating any further, and make it available so that members of the public can come, see it and understand what the experience was of civilians in Hull who were being bombed during the Second World War.
The redevelopment of Beverley Road is part of the 10-year city plan, all geared toward making Hull a world-class visitor destination. Residents have a further opportunity to have their say on the proposals tomorrow from 3:30 at Stepney Primary School.
People are really keen to see Beverley Road in a better state. They're really keen to see, this potential. It could really be, it is one of the most important gateways into the city, and it really could do to look like that.
You're watching Estuary TV News. A little later, James Dunn will be here to round up all the weekend's news stories, and Dan will be back bringing you all the sports news. Friday night was Sleep Easy Night, designed to raise awareness and money in support of homeless people. Our reporter Dave Nunn, who slept rough as part of the event, joins me now. Dave, how was it?
It was quite possibly one of the worst experiences of my life, really.
Really? It was a freezing night on Friday night.
Yeah, I kept checking my phone. It got to about -2, -3 in sort of the early hours of the morning, and it was just
And just take me through the events of the evening. You turned up. What happened?
So we got there, and they had a big pile of cardboard, and people started building shelters. That quickly ran out because there was over 100 people there. So they kept going out to get some more. And eventually people were having shelters built. I went and talked to the people from Harbour Place who were providing the food. They had things like soup and tea and stuff. And I was basically chatting to them about what they do and, and how they sort of helping us on the evening. And then they had a safety briefing where they were talking through things like first aid and all that sort of stuff. And then they had exercises, which I didn't take part in because I was busy filming.
Well, we'll see your report in a moment, but... what, people were just trying to keep warm, were they?
Yeah, there was exercise games provided by someone from the Grimsby Institute, and they had like passing hoops along people and sort of kicking balls around, and they had passing balls down lines, that sort of stuff, just to keep people warm. And then it was just a couple of hours just mixing with everybody and talking before the lights went out and we tried to sleep.
And did you get any sleep?
About an hour and a half.
So you did actually manage to drop off at some point?
I think I was one of the only people that did.
What were you wearing?
I had 3 shirts on, a fleece and a jacket, and obviously I had trousers and shoes as well.
Did you have a sleeping bag or anything like that?
I did, but it didn't work very well.
Well, you had one night of it, and it was clearly pretty horrible. You must have a certain amount of fellow feeling and sympathy with people who have no choice but to sleep like that every night.
I do. I can't imagine what it's like. I mean, even in my case, obviously we had the people providing us with drink stuff, but we had a sort of roof over our heads, I guess, with the upper floor of the car park, and we had a cardboard box shelter. But some of these people, they sleep in alleyways or they sleep on a bench, and I just can't imagine doing that.
It's an event that was raising awareness, of course, and through publicity and through the sorts of things that you were doing in your work. It was raising money as well, though, wasn't it? Did you raise any cash?
Yeah, I raised quite a bit of money. Yeah, I raised between about £150 to £200. There's still people giving me money, so I've raised quite a lot of money. I know some of the groups raised over 500 quid, so quite a lot of people raised quite a lot of money.
And where does that money go?
It goes into the YMCA, and it goes into funding their shelters and stuff that they used to accommodate people, homeless people of all ages.
Who was organising the event? What was the support structure around it?
I know that the YMCA organised the event, and they had obviously Harbour Place in Grimsby, which is a charity that takes sort of homeless people and it gives them a bed, a meal, and a shower for the night. They were helping provide all the food and stuff like that. And obviously, they had a big role to play because obviously it's part of their charity. It's what they do every day, and they provided fantastic food and kept us all warm and full, bellies full for the night.
What's the scale of the problem, Dave? People sleeping who don't have anywhere to sleep at night, who don't have a home to go to, and of course it's not just not having somewhere to sleep, it's not having a home is a much bigger thing. How many of them are there in North East Lincolnshire?
The actual figures I'm not entirely sure of. I know around our region it stretches into the thousands of people that are sleeping homeless, which seems like quite a lot, 'cause you don't really see You know, you go out in Grimsby Town Centre or Hull City Centre on like a Friday, Saturday night, you don't really see that many people doing it, but apparently a lot of people do, and I think quite a few of them are from my age group as well.
What, people in their early 20s?
Yeah, people who are sort of between 18 and 25 or 18 and 30, quite a lot of them sleep rough, and it sort of brings it back to me when I go out and do things like the Sleep Easy, really.
And what causes it? Because we have a benefit system, and I know we have a shortage of housing, but we don't have a shortage of actual rooms, as it were. What causes this homelessness?
I think there's a variety of factors you go look at, really. I mean, one of them could be, violence factors, someone suffering from domestic violence, or they live with abusive partners or parents, and obviously they'll run away and they'll have nowhere to go, so they go on the streets. I think some of it can be put down to economic hardships as well. I mean, people can claim benefits. Some people don't, because they have, some people have some sort of weird sense of pride about it and say, I'm not going to claim benefits, so they, go sleep on the streets. I think those two factors, sort of the main ones, mixed together to that make people sleep rough on the streets.
If people want to contribute to this, it's too late, of course, to take part in the event again now until next year, of course. But how can they get in touch if they want to donate money?
Well, for the YMCA website, and there's an actual Sleep Easy website as well that people can go on and donate money to specific people or just the overall charity on there.
And what did you do? You woke up, presumably, in the early hours of Saturday morning. It was snowing that night, wasn't it?
It was a little bit, yeah.
What did you do immediately afterwards? A hot breakfast and home to bed?
I got a McDonald's breakfast on the way home and went to bed at 7 o'clock.
Other hamburgers are available?
Yeah, of course, other hamburgers are available.
And what, you just went home and you went home and got some kip and warmed up, did you?
Yeah, which was probably the worst thing to do, because I felt worse after I had a sleep at home.
Well, it's something that you had the option of doing, I guess, and that all those poor people who don't have the option, they don't have a bed to go to after a night out on the streets. Yeah. Dave, well done for doing that. Many thanks. And let's have a look at your report in a moment. As we've just heard, more than 170 people spent the night in the open on Friday for the YMCA's annual Sleep Easy event for homeless people sleeping rough. The largest event was in Grimsby, and as you've just seen, Dave was there to cover it.
Another year and another Sleep Easy has come and gone, and this year there are record numbers. Over 170 people took part in our area, with over 100, including myself, doing it in Grimsby, with people taking part for a variety of reasons.
This is the 5th year on the trot now of being taking part in Sleep Easy, but to be honest, it's a great event. I enjoy it in some respects, but on the other hand, it doesn't give you the reality of what it's like to be homeless.
So it's just after 9 o'clock here at the Sleep Easy 2015. As you can see behind me, people are really settling for the night, despite the fact that it's pretty cold here. It's about -1 at the moment. What we have to remember is we're here and we've got people providing us with things like nice warm chicken soup. But out on the streets, real homeless people are really suffering, and that's why people are here sleeping easy tonight.
The Sleep Easy may not offer the full experience of being homeless, but Dave Carlisle, who manages the charity Harbour Place, explained to me what it would actually be like to be homeless on a cold night.
Pretty awful, I would think. Harbour Place actually is open tonight for people who's rough sleeping, and so tonight the ironic thing is we've got the people who would normally be sleeping rough indoors, nice and warm, and we're outdoors. So it's good to actually get a little taste of it, but it's not something that nobody would like at this time of year, or any time of the year really.
The staff from Harbour Place who volunteered at the Sleep Easy, who look after homeless people as a day job, really appreciate that people are sympathising with their clients.
It's a good cause. I did it last year and I'm doing it this year, and most probably I'll do it till the day I die. But it's a lovely cause. It helps with us working with the vulnerables and the homeless. It's a good cause.
Another year and another Sleep Easy is over. The 2015 Sleep Easy is about to come to an end. It's 5:45 in the morning and it's probably about -1, -2, and I've had 2 hours sleep, so I'm pretty knackered and I'm pretty cold. But I think it's taught me a valuable lesson about being homeless, because here we've had extra things like people making us hot drinks and people to talk to. Actual homeless people probably are largely on their own and they don't have that sort of stuff available to them. So the Sleep Easy has really taught me a valuable lesson about what it's like to be homeless, and I'd certainly recommend other people do it in the future.
Time now for reflections with the Reverend Stephen Whittington from Jubilee Church Hall in Hull.
Some of my favourite verses in the Bible come from a story that Jesus told, a parable which always has a meaning. He said, "The kingdom of heaven's like a mustard seed, which a man plants in his field, and though it's the smallest of all your seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and perch in its branches." People hearing this story would have thought, well, Jesus, you're a bit crazy. A farmer doesn't plant seeds so it grows into a tree so that birds can come and perch in its branches. I mean, after all, that's why you have scarecrows in a field. You get rid of those birds. So why does Jesus say that? Well, you see, God's ways are different than our ways. See, God wants those birds to come in and have shelter in that tree. But that tree and the birds that come, the word that Jesus uses in the Greek is not the majestic birds, but the fowls, the dirty birds, the ones that come like vultures and feast on the dead bodies. What is Jesus saying here? He's saying that his kingdom is a kingdom for those who are lost, those who need shelter, those who have no hope, those who feel frustrated, those who are despairing, those who feel outcast, those who feel like they're really poor. And as churches, we need to be those who really care for the poor, the ones that people sometimes push aside. It's the same in our communities. Sometimes we do put up scarecrows. Not that type of person in my community. I couldn't mix with them. But God wants to encourage us to be those who are full of love and acceptance and support the most vulnerable in our society. And of course, in our region, some people are getting poorer. Let's continue to reach out with them with the encouragement that Jesus brings to us today.
I'm joined now by James Dunn for a roundup of the weekend's news. James, welcome. What's been going on?
Thank you. Well, it's been quite a busy weekend for the police, apparently, because I suppose the big story of what happened over the weekend in Hull, police have now launched a murder investigation. A woman was found dead in the Ibis Hotel. And so police have confirmed today, after investigations yesterday, obviously, around 1 o'clock they were called in the afternoon, that they've now opened this murder investigation. They have actually arrested someone, a 51-year-old man, I believe. The woman's actually not yet formally been identified, so we don't know who it is. No doubt, you know, at some point today or perhaps tomorrow she will be formally identified and that name will be released. Don't want to say too much, don't want to speculate too much.
Of course not.
There are rules surrounding, you know, wouldn't want to cast aspersions in any way. So I suppose we'll just have to wait and see and see what happens with that.
Horrible and mysterious, isn't it?
Indeed. I mean, another thing, because obviously we mentioned the murder in today's bulletin, but one thing that's actually come in the last sort of few minutes actually is police are looking for information on an alleged sexual assault, and that was it in Beverley Road. This was on sort of Friday night, well, midnight, and it's just an allegation, but a 13-year-old girl who was waiting at a bus stop was approached by two men and alleges that she was touched inappropriately by one of the men. So police are looking for information. It was at a bus stop near the junction with Hilda Road. The man was described as Asian, 25 to 30 years old, around 5'9". So if anyone did see anyone fitting that description in that area around that time, please do get in touch with police and tell them about that. Okay, very well. Pretty horrible weekend in Hull by the sound of it. But by the sounds of it, yes, and it was cold as well. Yes, as we've heard, yes. But, you know, I'm afraid news doesn't really get much better in Grimsby. The one thing that I'm going to talk to you about, I mean, this was something that's been in the Grimsby Telegraph, but a puppy walking in People's Park. The owners have spoken out because it was essentially savaged by another dog. Needed staples in its legs to clean the skin up. And they're essentially saying, you know, people need to watch out. And you see stories like this time and time again, really. People don't have the dogs on the lead, one goes for another one. And the frustrating thing is, you see these stories time and time again, but there's very little that people can do about it. You know, there's very little recourse for the owners who have to pay out this money for vet stills, because of course, people who own these dogs sort of pick their dogs up and walk off, and there's no way of telling who they are. And, you know, the police are very limited in the powers that they've got to find these people or even prosecute them, actually, when it does happen.
And it's also very difficult to know when dogs get together if they're just playing and they're fooling around, because it's part of their nature, it's their sociability, is to get into a bit of wild horseplay, inappropriate word to call it, and whether it is actually savage and they do really actually mean violence, because they're very they can look pretty rough when they're just playing around.
I know, and it's also very difficult to tell because, I mean, people label certain breeds of dogs and things like that, but I mean, you could have a dog who's perfectly well behaved all the time. You've never seen it, you know, attack another dog, and then all of a sudden, you just never know, because these are wild animals. They've been domesticated, but I mean, it doesn't make it any easier, though, if it's your dog that's been attacked, because people think they're a member of the family. I don't know if you've ever had a dog.
I've had lots of dogs, and they are absolutely members of the family, and it would be horrible if they suffered.
Yeah, it would be extremely distressing.
James, thank you very much. Time now to go back to Dan for the sport.
We'll start with football, and Hull City lost 3-0 at home to Newcastle United on Saturday lunchtime. Goals by Rebi Cabella, Sami Amiobi and Johan Gouffran meant United boss John Carver got his first win in charge of the Magpies and left the Tigers well and truly in the relegation picture. Scunthorpe United picked up an emphatic victory on the road at Leyton Orient. On-loan man Tom Hopper netted twice for the Iron in the 4-1 victory, which also saw Luke O'Neill and Gary McSheffrey find the net. Grimsby Town's home game with AFC Telford was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch, whilst North Ferriby United joined Scunthorpe in winning by 3 goals in a 3-0 home win over Worcester City. Tom Denton, Danny Clark and Danny Hone with the goals in that one. In ice hockey, it was a mix of fortunes for the Hull Stingrays in their 2 games over the weekend. On Saturday, the Braehead clan were leading 2-0 and looked to extend their lead at the top of the Elite League, only for Jordan Knox, Jordan Meyer and Zach Avato goals to turn the game on its head as the Stingrays claimed an unlikely away victory. Sunday evening saw the Stingrays host the Fife Flyers. The game ended 3-3 in regulation time, so the game went to a shootout, which saw Ned Lucevic score the decisive goal and give the Flyers a 4-3 victory. At Cadwell Park, it's car track day this coming Saturday, where members of the public can take their own vehicles around the circuit. It's £99 to take part in the event, and further information can be found on the track's website. And don't forget, it's our club's transfer deadline day tonight. It's the last chance for Hull City, Scunthorpe United and Grimsby Town to make permanent signings before the end of the season, and we'll bring you news of all the last minute details in tomorrow's show. The deadline is 11 p.m, and that's all for the sport.
Thanks very much, Dan. That's all we have time for this today, I'm afraid. If you have a story, go to our Facebook or Twitter pages. Please do that. Details on the screen. Email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 315561. Until tomorrow, good evening.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Early icy patches can be expected. Sunny spells and scattered showers for most of the day though, especially near the coast where it will also become breezy later. Feeling cold with a maximum temperature of 5 degrees. Wednesday it's feeling windy and cold with snow showers, some heavy, producing slight accumulations.